Alright Ed, so you did a great job with your first how-to video. Basically, now you're starting to get your pivot a lot better, you're rotating around your spine, you're doing all that good stuff. So let's go into kind of what I focus in on the down the line view. So the first point of interest that we're trying to work on is I want you to be standing up a little bit taller at address. Now when you do that, you're going to feel like you can't get to the golf ball. So there's one of two things that you're going to have to do. I'd say the first thing is, once you start standing up a little bit taller, you might need to stand a little closer to the golf ball, as well as you might need to get a little bit more knee flex. So those would be the two things I would put into action for your for the first point, standing a little bit taller. Now the second point we got into was shallowing out the shaft. So again, in transition, we were seeing that your shaft was getting a little steep like such, and then you were doing something with your lower body to get this shaft back to the original shaft line. So to shallow out the shaft, there's two ways and two feels I want you to do. The first way is pretty simple. I'm going to have you swing up to the top, and you're just going to physically feel like you're doing with the right elbow and the wrist that you're getting the shaft to lay down a little bit like that. So that would be the first way. That's kind of that's putting on the torque of the club with your elbows and your wrists and the forearms. That's one way to do it. Now there's another way to do it called natural shallowing of the shaft. So let me kind of explain what that one. This one's a little bit more, I'd say a little bit more in-depth and a little bit more difficult to comprehend, but it is an easier way, I believe, in general, to shallow out the shaft. So as we get up to the top of the swing, the first part of this natural shallowing motion, we need to have this left knee working like such. Now when you do that, that's going to make the upper body want to rotate as well. Now when we do that, and we don't pull down on the club, or we don't feel like we have a lot of pressure in the wrists and the forearms, this is kind of what happens. When that left knee goes like that and we rotate, notice how that lays down the shaft by itself. So that would be the second way. That's called more natural shallowing. So I would try both and see which one works for you. I know a lot of people have success with the first way, a lot of people have success with the second way, so it's kind of up to you. While you're doing that, so the last point of interest we went into was kind of how I talked about right bend. So let's go over that real quick. So right bend, simply put, if you're standing straight up and down and you bend up from the upper body like such, that's right bend. Now a lot of you players that I see, when you get steep in transition, there's two ways that you shallow the shaft. You either go into right bend quite a bit like such, and the club starts swinging pretty far to the left, or you got players that go into right bend really early like such, more like that, and then gets the swing direction out to the right. So you're the first one. So I would say once we start shallowing out the shaft and we get it looking a little bit more parallel to that original shaft line at that one point I was talking about, now we're going to have to do something a little bit more different with the body through impact. So as we're coming down into impact, everything's rotating, our hips are opening, chest is rotating. Now from here, you're pretty good. You're usually right in this position right here that I like. Now once we get here, let's go on this angle right here. Once we get into this angle at the last part at impact, now I like to see the left shoulder going up and to the left, like such. And you're gonna see this pelvis pushing forward like such. So I'll show you the face-on view. So as you're getting down into impact, after impact, you're feeling like this left shoulder is starting to level out while the pelvis is kicking forward like such, and your sternum's going to go a little bit further back than your pelvis. That's called extending up through the impact zone. It's really good. It'll help you get a little bit more height on your shots. It's also going to allow you to get a little bit more speed, and as well, it kind of helps with lower back pain. A lot of players I see, like your DJs and stuff like that, when they stay in this right bend forever, which would look like this, they start getting some pain in the lower back, and over time they build up an injury, and it could actually end their whole golfing career. So that's why I like to see you extend up a little bit. So let's go on the face-on view again and show you what that looks like. So again, we're coming down into impact. Once we get into impact, we're feeling like our shoulders are gonna start leveling out like such, and then our pelvis is kicking forward. So again, we're right here, leveling out and kicking forward. So again, that's a good matchup for when you shallow out the shaft and you're parallel at that one point. So they all kind of have to go together. That's why I usually have to give you 2 to 3 things per lesson, because if I only give you one, you're gonna hit the ball like crap and you're not gonna want to do it. So that would be the last point of interest. Now let's kind of go into how I want you to practice. So now let's talk about how we're gonna start implementing in some of the swing changes. So I don't believe you're really gonna need to worry too much about the standing taller part and how to implement that. I think that's pretty straightforward. So we're gonna skip straight into the shallowing of the shaft. So there's a couple drills I like to do with most of my players that kind of gets them the idea around it. So the first one we're going to go over is called the lasso drill. So when we swing up to the top of the swing, we're going to stop, and then we're going to start getting this little lasso feel right like such. So again, when you're doing this, I want your grip pressure. You can have a tight grip pressure, but I want the wrist to be loose, right? So again, we're going to get up to the top of the swing. We're going to start this little lasso motion, getting that feel. And once the club head is dropping down like such, then we go and we swing and hit the golf ball. So this is a great little action. It kind of gives you the feel of how to shallow out the shaft. So I'll show you a little example of how it's supposed to look. So again, we're going to swing up to the top. We're going to get this little lasso drill going. Then right when it comes down at this point, we're going to come down and hit the golf ball. So. It's going to look like that. So I would recommend doing maybe starting out a slower speed. So let me kind of show you an example of what I mean by slower speed. Do some swings where you kind of go probably about 25% speed. So it's going to look like this. Hit like 3 of those shots, film maybe one of them, see if you're doing kind of the shallow motion that I want. Again, the checkpoint is once the hands for you get down to right about here, I want that club shaft parallel to that original shaft line. Now, if you see yourself doing that, speed it up and keep on going and keep on going. So that's the first drill. Now, an easy second drill to kind of get the feel of this is I want you to get about 3 to 4 golf clubs or something just kind of heavy so you can kind of get the feel. I want you to start swinging up to the top. You can split hand grip it if you want. Get up to the top to swing. And I want you to feel the weight of the clubs dropping the club like such. Now while you're doing that, try not to get the hands, I don't want the hands to be dropping this way while it does it, and I don't want them to be dropping too far out. They're gonna feel like they're dropping pretty much vertically down while the weight of the club is pulling the club head like such. So that's kind of the feel of shallowing out the club, and that's gonna be how it looks and kind of feels. So that's a great little drill to get the feel. Now the last drill that I like to do with my players is I'll have them set it up and I call it like a 2-part freeze. So you're gonna stop at certain parts of the swings and then you're gonna hit one. So it kind of looks like this. So the first part, swing up to the top and stop. Second part, you're going to swing down to the last parallel. Again, last parallel is when the hands are level to hips and stop. Now when you get down to this checkpoint, your shoulders should be square to the ball target line, which is where the golf ball or the club face is pointing at setup. Your hips are going to be slightly open if you want to get technical, right around anywhere from 15 to 30 degrees. And this club shaft is going to be at a 45-degree angle to the ball target line. So it's not going to be like this. It's not going to be like this. It's going to be right at a nice 45. So an easy way to kind of tell some of these numbers, get a couple golf clubs, maybe get a shaft or something like that, put them down on the ground. So this club right here represents the ball target line. This one's going to be the toe line, or heel line. I like to do heel line. So let's get these matching up. So I just swing up to the top and stop. Let's get down to the last parallel. I'm going to check to see if my shoulder line is square to that one, my hips are slightly open, and my club is at a nice little 45-degree angle to the ball target line. Once I hit those checkpoints, go ahead and make a swing. So that's going to get you used to kind of more of the natural shallowing that we talked about. So the reason why we do stop and goes is basically just to give yourself enough time to get into the correct positions and make sure you're doing it correctly. When you film yourself down the line, you're still looking to see that the shaft is parallel at that one point. When you get down to the last parallel, you're going to see that your hip lines look a little bit open to the ball target line, your shoulders are square. So that would be, those would be the drills I use for shallowing. Again, this is a really important concept in the swing that I like to teach, so if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Now let's get into how the body, alright, so when we're talking how the body should work, I'm talking about basically from impact, which is P7, to P8, to P9, to P10, pretty much from impact all the way to the follow through. So we're going to use the same drill that we did, we went over last, so it's kind of a stop and go drill. So I'm going to want you to get down to that last parallel position, or P6. So again, the hips are open around 15 degrees, the shoulders are square, that club shaft is at a 45. Now we're going to practice some swings without the golf ball, where we're going to feel like this left shoulder is working a little bit up, like such, and left. As well, we're going to work on this pelvis pushing forward like such. So I want you to do like 2 to 3 swings. Every single swing that you do, I want you, for this one especially, I want you to film. And what you're going to see that the last parallel, your shoulder line is pretty level at this point. You're going to start seeing that shoulder line get a little bit more vertical with the left side. As the pelvis starts pushing forward, now you're going to see the shoulder line level out again like such. So you're going to go from level to an incline while going left, and then level out again. So I'll show you down the line what it looks like. So again, right, our shoulders are pretty level at this point. Now it's going to start going onto an incline like such. And then as the pelvis pushes forward, now we're going to level out that incline. So again, it's going to go from level, incline with rotation, and then level again. So that's kind of how the shoulders work throughout the swing. So to practice this, again, I do a lot of mirror work. This is kind of hard to do while swinging because I know you got a lot to work on before that as well. But if you are going to work on it with the full swing and hit some shots, I would do the stop and go drill, top the swing, stop right here, and then go ahead and go and swing. If you do it yourself, make sure that the shoulders are working correctly and that your pelvis is starting to kick and extend upwards. Now the crucial point to this is I want you to do all this, but I want you to do it at the right sequencing, and that's when sequencing comes in. So you probably heard of the kinetic sequence on the golf channel and stuff like that. Basically, if you think about it as the DNA helix, it's like that. So when we sequence the golf swing, we want there to be a little pressure shift to the lead side like such, then a rotational move which opens up the body, which gets us down to that last parallel position that we talked about. And then from here, we feel like everything's trying to catch up to these hips, because our hips are the most open part of our body at this point. So we're feeling like everything's firing and everything's trying to catch up to those hips like such. And that would be the sequencing that I like to see. So anyways, if you have any more questions, feel free to contact me via email. This is kind of how I want you to implement your golf swing right now. And this is pretty much kind of the last like 2-3 lessons that we've done. This is pretty much my swing theory in a nutshell. So I know it's a lot of information, but if you do have any questions, feel free to contact me, and I hope it helps.